Good morning, everybody. Well, let me get my headset on. Sorry. Got this new headset, and I keep forgetting that I actually have to press a button to turn it on. Should clear up my audio in 1 second here once this connects to my Bluetooth. One sec. There we go. Okay, that should be a little better. All right, it is Friday, September 10, and we are taking a look at the markets this morning. Yeah, so this is the 15-minute S&P chart, and yeah, I had a pretty good day yesterday, and you can see there's some high volume that loaded up here. We got a little reaction from the underside of it right there. Probably not enough to really take any profit off, but I wouldn't expect that much of it anyway. You can see the selling was not that aggressive. However, coming off of here, look how aggressive the buying was. And so if you were awake in the wee hours of the morning, definitely could have considered a trade right off of there. And you could have taken that as far as you want to for a profit target. Really nice stuff there. So again, I didn't trade it, but you could have. And so this was this was some volume that was created during the day yesterday, during the opening, and then we came down and sort of bounced off it basically right. This wasn't wee hours of the morning. That's my mistake. This was basically right at the close. We bounced off of this and then moved on to the upside. And this is actually Russell, so a little bit different. I literally just opened my charts, and this is just what was in front of me. So I'm going to pop over to the S&P. I didn't realize that TradingView had a desktop application. I was always just using their web version, but apparently they have a desktop app. So this is the desktop app. I downloaded it yesterday. It's kind of cool. Pretty much the same, but you're just not going off the web. It has a little bit more juice to it, I think. So I've been scaling in to some long-term and swing positions. I mentioned that yesterday. If we zoom out to the hourly, you can see we're just coming down into all of this right here, this great support right there. So I had bought in a little bit earlier in the week, and then yesterday I added a little bit more to that position. So sitting up pretty nicely this morning on that, and I'll see if I can just ride that back up to maybe some new highs. If we come down lower, I have no problem buying some more. So that would be good. And let's just take a look. So yesterday we talked about that we were in this hourly downtrend. We kind of marked it off down there. And we did break the high, right? So we did come up and break a high, but we didn't make a higher low. So we broke structure to the upside right there, right? When this came in and broke that high, right? We broke structure right there, but then it kind of failed, right? Didn't really keep going, didn't even come back up to this next supply zone, which was sort of the first warning shot. And this candle here is a warning shot anyway. And then, of course, we just sort of head straight down right from there back into this larger support from the larger time frame. You can look at that on like a 4-hour or an 8-hour time frame and see it more clearly. So now we kind of have to see where we go from here. We need to basically start to shift, and if we're going to head up, we need to see some higher lows start to form down here. We'd like to see something basically, however high this wants to go, but come down, make a higher low, and then start to break some structure and kind of head to the upside. Now, as far as if that's going to happen, let's just take a look and see. I don't know how much volume came in here at this top. This is definitely like a nice divergent bar. If I put on my divergence indicator, you can see that kind of caught that top right there, caught this bottom right here too. So, you could have traded right to the downside off of that. I caught a trade on NASDAQ yesterday up there. So I took a short right here, just on a small time frame. Took that down, and then I also took crude on this top here and took that down. I did not trade S&P yesterday at all. I just traded NASDAQ and crude. They had better price action. I missed this there was a beautiful short right here. Was it here? No. Let me see. Let me go to my 5-minute chart. It was a beautiful short right at the end of the day. RTY. Yeah, right here. I missed this one. It's nice consolidation here. Aggressive selling. I just wasn't watching this chart, but this came right in to the high volume node and then sold off beautifully from there. That was a really, really nice, easy trade. Took almost no heat. A little bit bummed that I missed that. It was right towards the end of the day, and I was sort of wrapping up my day at that point. I was looking at this chart. This was sort of the equivalent, and we could see on S&P we didn't make it up into the supply zone, and then this is where RTY sold off, and then S&P sold off too, and then we gapped down over there. So anyhow, let's just take a look. Let's take a look and see what can we expect maybe on our way back up here. Where might we expect the market to kind of turn and head back down? Got obviously this consolidation here, which is something that is good to know. We had this really aggressive selling that came from there. So that's an area that's interesting to me, something we may want to be aware of for a trade to the downside. That would be either, if we don't stop here, right? Because this was some decent selling. It wasn't super aggressive other than the gap down. But this would be a decent area to look at a downside trade to then, if we come up here, then come down, maybe then we form a higher low. Probably not a ton of volume down here because this again was post-market. This was, right after the bell. So, and then I'm curious to see, because sometimes, yeah, you can see NASDAQ's there already. NASDAQ's already there. So it'll be interesting to see if at the open today, if NASDAQ just pushes right up through this, or if this is where NASDAQ comes down. Now, the NASDAQ on the hourly looks a little different, right? It wasn't in as much of a downtrend. It's really just been more sideways on the hourly. So, especially if we look at it from like a 4-hour time frame, right? Just very sideways, very choppy. So we'll just have to see kind of what that wants to do, but definitely just looking at this resistance right here, if this weren't, kind of early morning right before the open, this would be an interesting area to look to go short for at least a very short move there. And then of course there is some additional volumes up here that we're going to want to be aware of. And that's another area where we might want to be interested in taking a short trade. If we come back up here, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to grab that. There we go. So these are two areas of resistance that I'm certainly going to be keeping my eye on. Not that concerned with this little guy. That's a very small time frame little node there. And let's just take a look at RTY. You can see RTY kind of came up into this again yesterday already, sold off, and is now pushing through. I don't know. Let's see. And I've been watching all the indexes lately because, S&P's been the price action's been really sloppy, and the volume the past couple weeks has been kind of thin, especially if you're trading like 1 minute and 5 minute time frames. So you had nice volume here that got tested right in the overnight there. So not concerned about that level. It's got volume here, but not very aggressive buying as we're just kind of RTY's dealing with all of, whoops, that. RTY is dealing with basically all of this volume from up here still. Even though we tested it once, you can see, again, there's the high volume node. You can see how we tested it. And we're still just dealing with this whole kind of chunk of stuff in here. So again, if we look at this zoomed out, let's take a look at the 1 hour, and just kind of take a look at the structure of the market. We had this high, kind of came down, made a low, high. I mean, you could kind of call all these, depending on how you want to look at it, right? You could kind of say something like this, and then we sort of broke structure to the upside, starting to form this higher low. But this higher low is only going to matter to us if it continues to break structure. This is, it's kind of sloppy, right? And this maybe is better off over here. Kind of sloppy, but that's sort of what the structure of the market looks like. We can move this a little bit just so we can see it clearer. That's sort of what the structure of the market looks like right now. You can see this selling was very aggressive. This was not very aggressive. And so this is where, from this area, this consolidation, this is where this push down came. And then, of course, we're hitting it again and looking for another push down, even though this level was tested from this wick right there. So RTY is looking like that. And if we're going to come down, again, most of this stuff here, this leg up is pre-market or post-market and pre-market. So not like a tremendous amount of interest. Like I said, this level here was already tested. It may still be somewhat valid. We have some volumes down here from this reversal area that we just may want to be aware of. But other than that, we'll just kind of have to see. If we're going to continue up on the Russell, we want this low to hold here about 22.44, and we want to see this high break at 22.73. Moving back to the S&P, just because that's what I try to trade mostly, but again, I haven't been trading it much this past couple weeks. Like I said, main levels I'm looking at right now, I'd be interested to see how the S&P reacts to 45.12, about 45.12.50, or sorry, 45.12.25 is an interesting level to me. And then up here at this top, there's some volume up here as well that I think we should be aware of, kind of starting right about there, 45.21. So 45.12, 45.21, those are the resistance areas I'm watching on S&P. Nothing major from support as far as short-term trading goes. Nothing too crucial that I'm watching. We'd really have to be more concerned with this stuff from over here if we're looking at support. We can see this is about where we came down to right in the post market yesterday, was this little chunk right here, right? And it makes sense because when we look at this single print candle like this, right, like it makes sense that that would need to get dealt with. And we might even, come down into this stuff if we're going to come down lower. That's why I said, as far as my long term, there's a lot down here that I think we could even still come down and test. Like, I wouldn't mind getting into some longer term positions down here around 43.96, 43.97. Really, I wouldn't mind jumping into some stuff down there. I think that's a nice level to be looking at for a swing entry or a longer term entry. But I've been scaling in. The market's been so strong that I've been just scaling in. Here, let's look at it on the micros because I don't have as much noise on my chart there. Let me turn off this here. You can see this is one of the kind of scale in trades that I took. And let's just zoom out. Right, so we can see, this probe down kind of dealt with some of this structure here. And then we had this nice consolidation. So I'm looking at this low to hold, but to me, like my stops aren't actually under this low for my longer term stuff. Like I have no problem scaling in, honestly, down to this low here. I would like this low at the very least to hold personally. If you're looking at real long term, like I'm talking like, I guess I'm talking more like intermediate term for myself. So again, this is the low here, about 43.46 that I'm looking at. But for like a longer term, you could even have your stops under 42.25 even if we look at this on like a weekly basis. We haven't had a week close lower since June, right? So even down here, 41s, there's lots of, I mean, this has been strong. This has just been really strong. So I'm not super concerned. Like I'm actually, like I like these deeper pullbacks for my longer term account. So anyhow, that's basically what I'm looking at today. Again, we're sort of dealing with this toppy stuff right here, and that's fine. You can see we're just dealing with that, right? And the volumes that were created from there. And so we'll see if we pull back down from this or if we're going to go up. I would think this is a stronger level just because of how aggressive the selling was that came off of it. I mean, this is kind of messy, and then the selling was not super aggressive coming off of it. So to me, this level here at 45.12 is much more interesting to me. So that's what I'm going to keep an eye on. Not a bad place, not a bad place at all to consider a trade. Again, NASDAQ's already there. So just be aware of that. NASDAQ is already at those levels, already pulling back. you know. So the question is like, how deep will that pullback go? If you follow my trading, I like to just go for 1-to-1. That's my style. Sometimes I'll go for more depending on the price action, but you see if we just want to see if this at least pulls back into that, because technically on this kind of short term, we're going counter trend, right? We're just looking for these reactions at previous resistance levels. Um, and where we might, if we're going to push through it, what I'd like to see personally, what would make it look nice and clean is if we pull back down into this level here, like 15.6, right? That would be a nice level. If I was going to try to go for more than 1-to-1, I would maybe go down to here, get like about a 1 to 1.5, just because that's where some of this volume starts, right around that 15.610. So, and then, once you get a nice reaction here, you can tighten that stop too and control some of that risk. But that's kind of what I'm looking at this morning. And I'm going to be in the trade room, dpmtrades.com. You can click on community. Trade room is free. I stream as many mornings as I can. Um, and if you want to just join us there, I try to post levels that I find relevant intraday. And I'm usually trading for the morning. I don't like to trade all day personally. If I wanted to work all day, I would just stick with my day job. So I try to just trade till about lunchtime or so. Sometimes I trade the afternoon if I didn't find anything interesting in the morning. So that's basically what I'm looking at. Hope you join us there. If not, I'll catch up with you on the next pre-market analysis. And I hope you guys have a great trading day.